Hello, and thank you for joining us for our next brilliant session, which is focusing on Riviera's wildlife and safari holidays. We're joined by Riviera's product manager, Yvonne Gillott. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi,
Thank you for joining us.
you're welcome.
Before we dive into your presentation, could you give us an overview of which safari destinations you sell?
So we do cover loads of destinations throughout the world, but some that focus more on the safari and the animal sort of element of things. And I'm going to talk about four of those itineraries in a little bit more detail later on. But some of the destinations we cover, we do Sri Lanka, which focuses on things like the Yala National Wildlife Sanctuary. Of course, we go to Costa Rica, which is all about the animals there. You can see things like the sloths, the frogs, loads of insects, the turtles. So there's loads of animals involved on that kind of safari, or not a safari as such, but animals involved and things you can see. We also go to our India and Nepal tour, which in Nepal, we spend some time at Chitwan National Park. I was there last year and I saw 19 rhino just on one safari. So it's
Wow.
a fantastic national park to visit. We've also got our Kenya safari in Africa, which is a full-on safari experience. You're literally seeing animals almost on a daily basis there. So yeah, lots of destinations, lots of places that we cover where you can see animals.
Oh gosh, sounds fantastic. Thank you. And to give us an idea of sort of the breadth of your product, how many different wildlife and safari itineraries do you offer across the program?
Overall, we've probably got about 17, but that covers quite a few destinations, various countries. But we do things like our classic tours. Then we've also got variations of our classic tours with our solo tours, and those are designed more for your solo traveler. And then we also have our signature tours, which are tours similar to the classic ones, but they contain a sort of like an element of something extra special, something a little bit different, and they tend to be smaller groups as well. So across the board, we've got variations of all the different types of tours.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And who would you say is a typical safari customer for Riviera?
Most of our customers tend to be sort of over the age of 60. I'd say people who go on safaris or wildlife type tours tend to be those that are a little bit more adventurous. They kind of like to experience nature and be out and explore a little bit more. And I'd say they probably would start with something smaller, like your European tours and your city breaks, and then perhaps move up to doing a long haul destination, and then something a little bit out the realm of normality, you could say, and do something like a safari.
Amazing. Thank you. Now we're looking forward to hearing your presentation. So I will let you tell us more.
Great, thanks, Charlotte. So I'm going to start off with our South Africa tour, which is probably one of our most popular tours, and that's a 16-day itinerary. That one starts with 4 nights in the Kruger Park, so straight away you're starting off with a safari. It's a great introduction, and we spend 4 nights near the Kruger National Park. We include a full-day safari, so you really get to sort of get around the Kruger Park and see loads of the animals and the different things that are in the park. If you're lucky, you'll see the big five as well. We have accommodation is at the Hippo Hollow Country Lodge, and that's chosen in particular for its location. It's located just outside of the Kruger Park, so really easily accessible to the Kruger. But it's also located on a river. And so in the evening, it's well known for elephants and hippos coming down to the river to take a drink. So you can often be sitting on the balcony near the bar, just having a drink, and you'll see these animals coming past, which is fantastic. We also visit Hermanus, which is in the Cape, and that's on the sort of west coast of the Cape, and it's where you'll see the whale migration from July to November. If you are traveling out of that time, though, there's loads of other animals to be seen there, loads of sort of like marine life, like seals, and loads of marine birds and that type of thing as well. We also include a visit to Boulders Beach in Cape Town, which is a penguin colony. And that's great because you get to see the penguins. The little baby penguins are really, really cute. Also, some of the other highlights on the South Africa tour is the Zulu War battlefields, We visit the Featherbed Nature Reserve in Knysna, which is a fantastic opportunity to get in amongst all the flora and fauna of the region. There's loads of birds as well, so it's a fantastic place. It's located on a lagoon, so amazing experience for people who love watching birds. And then, of course, we've got some wine tasting because we stay in the winelands, and then the tour finishes off with three nights in Cape Town. So that's sort of like a little overview of our South Africa tour. Then we move on to our Victoria Falls, Botswana, Safari and Cape Town tour, which is a mixture of doing the safari element and then some stay in Cape Town as well. It's a slightly shorter tour than the 16-day to South Africa. So this one's 12 days. And on this one, we spend 3 nights at Chobe National Park in Botswana. So we include a morning safari there as well as an afternoon boat safari, which is a fantastic experience because you get to see sort of the elephants coming down to drink on the water and loads of other animals there as well. Other highlights of the tour includes visiting to Victoria Falls. We've got 4 nights in Cape Town, which again also includes a wine tasting, and then the drive around the Cape of Good Hope. So again, fantastic scenery. A lot of people always want to know when's the best time to go to South Africa and Botswana to do a safari. Generally, May to October is probably the best time just because it's a bit drier. But of course, that's their winter. So the weather when you head down then into Cape Town or the rest of the country can be a little bit cooler. And also on the Botswana and Vic Falls tour, you kind of want to maybe, if you want to see the Victoria Falls in full flow, then you might want to consider going in a more rainy season just to see a bigger flow. Then we've also got our India tour. So that's our grand journey from India's Golden Triangle and also includes Shimla. And a lot of people would think, oh, with India, how does safari relate to that? But they've got some incredible national parks in India. And one of the ones that we go to is Ranthambore National Park, which is home to the elusive tiger. So at last count, they had 52 Bengal tigers in the park, but they've also got loads of other animals. You can see black buck, sloth bear. There's an abundance of birds. So again, for bird watchers, it's a fantastic experience. We include a morning safari in Ranthambore. Then we take guests back to the hotel where they can have lunch, a little bit of a relaxation, and then we do an afternoon safari as well. So you've got the different times of the day and they do different routes. So you get to experience different areas of the park, and the rangers are all experienced. So they know where to go and what to see. We also have a talk by a naturalist and where they learn more about the tigers, the habitat in the national park. And then other highlights include a tour to Delhi. We visit the Taj Mahal, Amber Fort and Red Fort. And then the tour finishes off with 3 nights in Shimla, where you get to go on the toy train up to Shimla and you get some spectacular views of the Himalayan mountains. Then finally, we've got our grand tour of Malaysia, Borneo and Singapore. Again, not really a destination that people think, oh, is there wildlife involved in that one? But there is. So we do a visit to the Sepalok Orangutan Rehabilitation Centre in Borneo. It was established in 1964 to help rehabilitate orphaned orangutans. So our visit there is timed to coincide with their scheduled feeding. So you get to see the babies coming down and being fed. And we also visit the nearby Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Centre, which is another rehabilitation centre. And this one's for sun bears, which are the smallest bears in the world. And they're only actually found in Southeast Asia. So in both centres, you get to learn more about the animals and the threats to them, which is partly due to forest degradation, but also poaching. So, it's all about the rehabilitation and helping them get sort of like back into nature again. And then other highlights of this tour include 2 nights at a 5-star resort in Kota Kinabalu. So they've got a little bit of a relaxation time. And then, of course, we've got our 2-night stay in Singapore. So they get to experience a little bit more of a Singapore and do a bit more shopping and that type of thing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Yvonne. That was really interesting. And tell us a bit about what's included on these tours.
So all of our tours will include your return flights from the UK. Generally, they're from a London Heathrow airport, so they all include scheduled flights. You've got your accommodation, which tends to be in 3- and 4-star accommodation. A lot of the tours, the accommodation we choose for their locations, so particularly on the wildlife and safari elements. So, for example, in South Africa, we stay just outside the Kruger National Park, so it's got great access to the Kruger Park. And easy to get to. The same thing with Chobe National Park in Botswana. Again, we stay in lodge-style accommodation on a lot of these safaris. In places like Costa Rica, for example, on our tours, we stay in eco-lodges. So your accommodation tends to be a little bit more basic, but they're really quirky. So they don't necessarily have things like air conditions, but they've got the ceiling fans, and they have sort of like blinds on the windows to keep things cool. And it's more about sort of eco-friendly and sort of more one with nature. It was a fantastic experience and those type of things. We also include on all of our tours, we've got your experienced tour managers. So you've always got a Riviera tour manager with you. And then on all of our long haul tours, we also have local guides that are there throughout the duration of the tour. So as well as the tour manager, you've got a local guide who's an expert on that particular area or that particular country. And then on the safari tours, on top of that, you've of course got your rangers. And all of them are official rangers. So they're not just somebody who, pops in a vehicle and gets off driving and hopes for the best. These guys really know their stuff. They track animals. They know where to find animals. They're in constant communication with each other because they tend to be using adapted 4x4 vehicles on these safaris because you can't take a huge big coach into a big game park. The animals, of course, would not like that. So you tend to use specially adapted vehicles with that usually seat between 10 and 12 people. And so you split the group into all those vehicles and those various groups, and then they each have an experienced ranger with them. And those rangers then keep in contact with each other via walkie-talkie and phones. And if one sees something, then they'll call the others, and everybody kind of come together. So that's great communication between them all, and they're so experienced. Like I said, they are trackers. They know where to go. They know where to find the animals. They're really good at sort of like getting to that. And then, of course, you've got all the other things included. You've got things like meals. So on a lot of our tours, breakfasts are all included. But on some of our long haul tours, our meals or evening meals and lunches might be included. So, for example, you're getting to taste sort of the more delights of those particular countries. Like, for example, in India, when you're staying in Ranthambore, you get lunch and dinner included as well as your breakfast. So, you're really getting a full-on feast, and they tend to be buffet-style meals, so you can get a little bit of taste of everything. That's what I love about India, is that you can go there and you can try things you wouldn't necessarily try at home because it's buffet style. So, if you don't like something, you can always go back and get something else. And then on our safari tours, so places like Botswana, Kenya, South Africa, they tend to do sort of your outdoor cooking. So some of the time they'll have boma dinners included, which is where you'll go out and they'll cook the food on an open fire. And then you get to sort of all sit around the campfire and experience that style of eating, which is more traditional style.
Brilliant. Thank you, Yvonne, for sharing all those amazing tips. That's fascinating. Thank you. Now we're going to move into the Q&A session of this session now. So please remember to write any questions that you have in the box, and we will go through those for you now. Perfect. So now, before we go through all of your questions, do make sure you have been into that poll section and answered those questions, so you are in with a chance of winning a place on that fantastic fam to Morocco. Now, Yvonne, looking at the questions we've got, Annabelle wanted to check if the Victoria Falls tour was a classic or signature. Can you help us out with that?
Yeah, sure. It's a signature tour. So the main difference, and I think somebody probably asked this question already, is the main difference between the signature and the classic tours. So the signature tours are smaller groups. So they're a maximum of 25 people, whereas some of our classic tours can be a lot larger. So the advantage is smaller, more intimate groups, which of course for wildlife is a lot better. If you've got smaller groups and you're sort of doing game drives and safaris and that type of thing, it is better to have smaller, more intimate groups. So yeah, signatures for Botswana tour.
Perfect, thank you. And there's been some lovely feedback on your presentation. Greg, Jacqueline and Linda all commented on the fantastic price of the South Africa tour that you shared with us. Your prices really are competitive, aren't they? Especially as there's so much included.
Definitely. So that price, the South Africa one is the lead-in price, which is for the 9th of July this year. So if anybody wants to get that price in, get there quick. And then after that, they sort of, prices will rise after that. But it is a really good price for South Africa, especially for the fact that it's such a long tour, and there's so many things included. Really, the only things you're looking to pay extra for are a few of your meals while you're out there. And then if you wanted to do any extra excursions, then obviously you can. So yeah, it's a really good price for the length of the holiday and what you get.
Amazing. And sticking with South Africa, Gail asked if you'd suggest that customers have vaccinations.
Yeah, for South Africa, you don't need any vaccinations, but when you're going to the Kruger Park, I think doctors normally recommend malaria tablets. So either malaria tablets or any form of like malaria type treatment, just because, especially in rainy season, because the Kruger Park is known for its malaria being malaria area, and when it's very wet, it can make a difference. So yeah, other than that, no vaccinations. The same thing will probably go for Botswana. Actually, there will be some areas where they'll say you're a malaria area and take precautions for that, but no, other than that, no vaccinations.
Perfect, thank you. And then just hopping back to the classic and signature difference, what are the group numbers on a classic tour?
So the classic tours vary depending on the tour. So for at the moment, a classic tour for South Africa is 46 people, whereas the signature tour is 25. And then the same thing with the solo tours, they're 25 as well. Our India tour is currently 38 people. And that's for the rest of this year. We've got the classic and the signature versions for the India tour. But from 2026, we switched that to a signature only tour. So that will be a maximum group size of 25 people for India. And then our Malaysia tour is a slightly bigger tour. So again, it'll be 38 for this year. But all of our classic tours for next year are reducing in size to a maximum of 36. So the Malaysia tour will drop down to 36 people next year.
Perfect, thank you. Alison has asked if clients can do any ape trekking with you.
We don't offer any ape trekking on any of our tours. I think that's quite a niche, specialised type thing. But there are loads of different types of optional excursions you can do. On the South Africa tour, you could do an extra safari. But yeah, nothing that particularly involves the ape trekking. I think that's more of a specialised type thing.
Thank you. And thinking about sort of animals and animal welfare, Michelle has asked sort of your policies around that. If there's anything, she asked for any assets re animal welfare, so perhaps things that she can pass on to her customers.
Yeah, so we do have a section on our website actually that talks about animal welfare, and we do follow sort of APTA guidelines. For us, it's all about animal welfare is very important. And I know when you're going to India and places like that, there are people who will offer elephant rides. It's not something that we would ever encourage. You just don't know if the animals are well taken care of and what the situation is. So we tend to just stick to national parks, where that the animals are taken care of in the best way possible. And then specialised sanctuaries, like, for example, in Malaysia, the Orangutan Rehabilitation Centre, that is literally, they will take out the babies and the orphans that have been in a situation because their mothers have been poached. And then they're taken to the rehabilitation centre, they're raised and they integrated back into the wild again. So we tend to just stick to those type of things.
Perfect, thank you. And my colleague Sarah has popped a link into Riviera Travel's responsible travel policy. So make sure you do have a look at that. There's lots of information on there. We've got another question from Sarah. She says, what are your solo prices, and are there any specific tours for solos that she could recommend?
Yep. So solos, we do loads of variations on the solos tours. For the ones that I've spoken about today for South Africa and India, we have solo tours. We don't do a solo tour on the Malaysia one, and we don't do one on the Botswana one. But South Africa has a solo program, and then again, maximum 25 people. And then for India, we also have the solo one, and those prices are really good. I think, obviously solo travel is becoming a very popular thing nowadays. I think one of my colleagues might have done or might be doing a presentation on solos. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so that's becoming a more and more popular thing. So as the demand increases, so we'll look at converting a lot of our tours and offering that solo option as well.
Brilliant. Lovely. And Tracy said, is there any plan to offer the weekly savings to solo travelers, because the rates can be very high for them?
Yeah. At the moment, a lot of the savings that we've got coming in are based on the classic tours, but it's definitely something that they look at to see how things are selling and where we can offer discounts in the market if that demand is definitely there.
Perfect, thank you. We've got next one from Tracy. She says, do tours usually run quite full, and are they all guaranteed departures, even if they're not up to the correct, the highest number?
Yeah, so we don't have specific minimum numbers that we require for all of our tours. A lot of factors are taken into account, and we try to operate as all the tours that we put on sale. Sometimes there is low demand for a particular date for whatever reason. A particular date might just not sell very well if it falls over certain holidays. Sometimes that always makes things difficult to sell. A lot of people don't necessarily want to travel over Easter, for example. So sometimes those dates are a lot more difficult to sell. So if we do cancel a tour because of slow sales, we tend to do it quite far out. So we'll always endeavour to do it before the customers have to pay their balances. So before any balances are due on the holiday, we'll always endeavour to do it then. And in fact, probably even further in advance, so we can give people as much notice as possible. And then we'll always offer alternative dates. So, if we have withdrawn a date for any particular reason, there's always going to be something else we can offer them, another date nearby, or even a similar tour that perhaps they might want to transfer to. So they're not left with nothing. We always try to offer another date where possible.
Perfect, thank you. I know earlier up in the chat, Alison pointed out that your signature tours are a must. She said there's no fear of missing out. That's a real big selling point, isn't it?
It is, definitely. I think a lot of people, group travel has always been there, hasn't it? And I remember the days when you used to go out on a group and there'd be like 50 people. It would literally be an entire coach load of people. And that always makes it a little bit difficult because, sometimes you can get to the end of a tour and you don't even recognize people. You think, have they actually been on my tour?
Yeah, who are you?
That many people, yeah. So I think that's the great thing about the signature tours is they're smaller, they're more intimate. Yeah. So you do get to know people, you can strike up friendships, and we have loads of people who've, perhaps been on our tours, and then they'll go back, they'll have made friends, and then they all go back and travel again on a different tour on a different date. So I think having a smaller group size does make it a little bit more intimate. And with a lot of our long haul tours as well, not only will you have your Riviera tour manager, but you've also got a local guide. So on all the ones we've spoken about today, on India, Botswana, South Africa, and the Malaysia tour, we've got a local guide. So they're local experts, and they know about those countries. They know about everything that goes on there. So you've almost got like more people taking care of you because, of course, you've got the local guide and the Riviera travel tour manager. And split amongst those two people, split amongst even a smaller group, does make it a lot more intimate. And then, of course, your signature tours have those little bit extras that we include as well. So things like, for example, on the Botswana tour, the signature experience is the evening cruise with the sunset drinks. And then we also include, I'm trying to think, Botswana, we include, the evening safari and then another safari as well. And then on the India tour, they've got the fantastic tuk-tuk ride that we do through Delhi in the morning. And that's incredible to do. But then again, at Ranthambore, they've got the naturalist who comes and talks to them about the ecosystem in Ranthambore National Park. So it's those little sort of extras that make the signature tour a little bit more special, not your typical excursions that are included. They're extras.
Fabulous. Thank you. And do you have any new products on the horizon that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so we've always got products coming. We've got, things in the pipeline, developments happening, and any new tours. We've got a few that are coming out. They'll be released in October this year.
Exciting.
So we're working on those at the moment. There's going to be 4 new tours coming out. So keep an eye on our website, watch the press releases, and more details will be coming up.
Fabulous. Watch this space. That sounds good. And you touched on this briefly in your presentation, but could you give us a bit more information about the best time to travel to the destinations that you featured?
Yeah. So India, the best times to travel is either January to April, or then September through to December, just because it's too hot to go in sort of like June, July, August. Although that said, every time I go to India, I seem to go there in July and August. So, I don't know, I must be crazy. It's really hot. So, you kind of want to stick to the cooler months in India, just because, it is a lot warmer. And then the best times to go on a safari in Africa, so your Botswana and your South Africa tours, that tends to be sort of May to September, October time. The reason being is it's winter then. So there's a lot less growth in the bush and things like that, so it's a lot easier to spot animals, and then also the animals, because it's winter, they'll be coming down to the watering holes because it doesn't rain that much, so they'll be coming down to the watering holes. So those tend to be your sort of best places to see your animals and to catch glimpses of that. The flip side to doing that is because it's winter, when you move down to Cape Town, it is slightly cooler. But I think, if you're going to a destination like Africa, to particularly Botswana or South Africa, you're not going for the weather, are you? You're going for the safari element. So, if I was going to pick a date to travel in, I'd say probably April, May, or September, October.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Yvonne. I hope everyone has found this morning sessions really informative. I know I have. Don't forget to log back on at 4 p.m. today for our Wine and Watch Spotlight on South Africa session. We've got a virtual fam and wine tasting to look forward to in that session, which will include some on-the-ground footage from an agent fam trip to South Africa. So make sure you don't miss that. And don't forget, we've got Riviera's partner room in the virtual lobby as well, where you can network and ask more questions. So make sure you pop in there. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you later again this afternoon. So bye for now.
Thank you very much.